first kind of bring up Math Excel for school. That should have been done prior to coming in here, darling. So if you're writing on your Irish Rice Krispie treat, stop, because it was done prior to coming here. Okay? So just no pencils up at this point. Okay? Thanks. So Math Excel for school is where most of you guys went online and did your homework. I kind of wanted to show you what I can see just for your own future reference. I did realize that, this morning was told by some students that the program kept freezing, and like when you tried to save it, it would start you back from the beginning and that kind of thing. So I think there was a general consensus not to save until the end, which I know makes us uncomfortable, because what if it, like, something happens and you don't save your work? But I think the saving process is what makes it freeze, okay? So the next assignment I give you, can we try that and see if that works better? Okay, I'm new to this whole thing too, so it's an adjustment process. But for now, let's try to save at the end, okay, and just see what happens. So you guys don't have this instructor page or this instructor panel like I do. I'm just going to kind of show you. I'm going to go to my grade book. I just want you to be able to see what I can see. So these are all the people that are in the class. I'm going to look at the homework because that is something that I happen to assign. There it goes. And here are some of the grades. Okay? So it's graded, or so you see. What I'm going to look at, and by the way, if you got a 90%, like Abby right here got a 90%, I'm going to give her a 6 out of 5. Does that make sense? However, I can not only do that, I can click on the assignment and I can learn several things. I can learn that this person spent 1.5 hours on her homework assignment. In my mind, that's probably too much, okay? I think that's, either maybe she left her computer open, I don't really know. But I can also know if you spent 10 minutes, which I saw some of you do, okay? So just know that I know how long it's on. I also can look at the actual assignment and see, there it goes, see if you answered every question, which I know that you all didn't. Some of you did not answer every question. Okay? I can click on the question itself and see what you answered and what the correct answer was. So I'm just kind of showing you all the information. It takes a minute, but it's loading. I can see exactly what you did is the point. Okay? So if you're doing it online, just know that. And it really needs to be an authentic try and homework and that kind of thing. There are a couple of questions I definitely wanted to go over on this problem. It's taking forever to load, so I wonder if I can go back. I want to look at specifically one. Let's see if it'll go back. Oh, it's going to freeze on me, probably. All right, so I wanted to talk about question 10, okay, specifically about that question on this assignment because it was it's a good one to look at. Does that seem reasonable? If you did a textbook assignment and because this kept freezing or you couldn't get it to work or whatever, I'll look at that in a few minutes. You can show that to me and I'll give you your credit. Fair enough? Let's look at question 10. And it's here. And this one is really kind of hard to read. So I'm going to kind of summarize it and if you didn't do this one or you struggled with this one or maybe you just want to write it down because it's a good question to learn and to practice. So this might be one for us to kind of look at. So what I'm going to ask someone to do is I'm going to pull this over on my desk because it's a little too hard to read. And I'm going to summarize the information up here. So, Fernanda, would you come back here and just kind of read that to me, and I'll just kind of summarize it up there, because I can't read and write at the same time on the smartboard, unfortunately. So I know that I have 100. This is like this is the problem. Those of you who did it, where we had, I think it was 100 customers. 100 customers, okay, and you're passing out cards that have different dollar values on them, and we have so many of each kind. And I want to figure out how many cards do I need to pass out to so many customers until I get, was it $400? Is that right?
It's like how many would you say?
How many what? Go ahead and read it to us. Yeah, go ahead and just read it. And I'll write it as you read. So just stop right there. So we have 10 cards that are worth $200. Keep going. Okay. Okay. So the rest, because it's 100 total, that would leave us with 60 more remaining, right? So 60 is worth how much, sweetie? $20, Bernina? $20, right? Okay. All right. Go ahead and keep reading the rest of the problem for us. Read it pretty loud so maybe you can get picked up on the mic.
Manager draws cards at random, awarding the customers the amount specified on their card. The drawings continue until the store has given away more than $400. Estimate the average number of winners each week. Perform 10 trials using the random numbers below. Let 0 through 5 represent $20, 6 through 7.
Okay, so stop right there. So that's more information. I'm so sorry. So 0 through 5. So they even give you the assignments. So that's, I wouldn't have done that. Go ahead. So 0 through 5 is what? $20. Go ahead. And what else? Okay. So they've already told you the assignment of the digits, haven't you? That's step 3, really. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and use the random number table. Can you just read the digits across for me, and I'll just rewrite them up here? Yeah, just keep going. All right, we'll stop there. Thank you, darling. I appreciate your help. All right, so this is our random number table. So if we're going to take this problem and we're going to apply all 5 steps, and that's what I'd like us to do here, okay? What would step 1 be in our 5-step simulation process? What do we need to do? Identify the component. Another way to say that would be state the problem. What is a trial? Okay, all of those things mean the same thing, okay? So step 1. What's the problem? What am I trying to simulate here? Simulate the number of, not the number of winners. Well, I guess if you're a winner, if you give a card to them, right? So that's fine. The number of winners, the number of customers that get a card. That's fine. And we can say it that way. Okay. So we're going to simulate the number of winners until I get. And it says, this is the word I think I think is an issue. It said at least, or did it say more than? I think it said more than, and I think they meant at least, because wasn't one of the trials exactly 400? There was 2 of them, and I think they stopped there. Whereas to me, I think it means you would go on. So if you got this question wrong, I think that they were wrong, okay? And so I'm going to go through it myself all from the beginning, but I'm going to contact the publisher and let them know that they need to change the wording to at least rather than more than. I'm assuming that's why everyone got question 10 wrong, okay? But let's just go ahead and go through the practice for us. Number of winners until $400 is reached. And I agree, it did say more than 400, right? So if you got 400, you'd have to go on and give one more card out according to the language of that problem. But we're going to go ahead and just say until 400, okay? All right, step 2. What is step 2 again? The assumptions, and almost always it's what? That the numbers appear equally likely. Okay, unless you're flipping a coin, then you have to assume it's a fair coin, or you're rolling a dice and you assume it's a fair dice. But when you're dealing with random number tables and calculators, we're going to assume that each number appears in the random table appears is equally likely. Assume the numbers that occur, have an equally likely chance of occurring. Okay. And then step 3. Wasn't step 3 assigning the digits, and wasn't that really provided for us? So I'm just going to put a 3 up there. Okay. And then what's step 4? The trials. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say the number of trials. So we're going to have the trial number. I'm going to put the outcomes, what the numbers happen to be. And then what am I looking for? The number of customers the count, right? How many customers did I give cards to? So we're going to put the outcomes, and then we're going to make that table, and we're going to have the number of customers, or the number of winners, if you want to say it that way, the people that won the card. Okay? So trial number 1. If it's okay with you, I'm just going to, we're going to count above here until we get $400. So 3, I'm just writing the numbers in I'm using my random number table at this point. So I'm using all of these digits, and I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to keep count until I get to $400. Okay? So 3 would be $20. So I have 20. And then 8, 100, so I have 120. 4 is another 20, so I'm now at 140. Okay, 6 is 50. So we can keep track on a calculator, so that'd be 190, I think. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, just keep going. And then we have 5. So we're at 190, and we're going to add another 20, so we're at 210. Okay, now we have 6, which is another 50, so what are we up to now? 260, okay, and we have another 6, and that's going to be another 50, so now we're at 310. We need to get to 400, right? So 310, so now I have 8, and that's 410. So with these outcomes, I've given out $410 worth of cards. Does that make sense? So I can stop because my trial has ended, and I'm going to count how many winners I gave cards to. In my first trial, I gave them to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There were 8 winners in trial 1. How are we doing so far? And I'm going to go ahead and stop because I'm just going to go ahead and cross out the numbers after I've used them so I don't use them again, and I'm going to keep going. Do we understand what the process is? Let's do one more trial just to make sure that we really see and understand what it's asking us to do. Okay, so trial 2 is going to look like this. We have 5, which is going to be, according to our assignment, $20. So we have 5, then we have 7. 7 is $50, so we're at $70. Then I have 8, which is 100, so I have $170. 4, believe that is $20. So what's that? 190. And then we have 7. 190 and 7 is going to be 50. So we're at 240. Okay, got to keep going here. And then we have 4, which is 20. So we're at, I don't know. I'm asking y'all to keep track. Would it help me if I wrote it underneath it, maybe? So 5 was 260, so we have 20 plus 50 plus 100 plus 20 plus 50 plus 20 so far. So what is that? 70, 170, 190, 240, 260. Okay, got to get to 400, so we got to keep going. So we're going to be at 0. It's another 20, so now we're at 280. 1, another 20, so we're at 300 exactly. 6 is 50, I believe, so we're at 350. Another 6 is 400. So this is where we have to think about, do we stop here? Or do we move on? According to the wording of that particular problem, it said more than 400, right? So I would have to go and give me one more card according to that language of the problem. So the one additional one would be a 5. And now we have more than 400. So we're going to count the number of winners, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And that would be trial 2. How are we doing so far? Now, step 5 in this process, let's say we did it said 20 trials, I'm not sure, 10, 20, I'm not sure, 20, okay. On a quiz or a test, I would not ask you to do that many because it takes too long, okay. We have a time constraint, so just keep that in the back of your mind. But what is step 5 in the process going to tell me to do? What is the conclusion, and what did the question ask again? I'll just read it real quick, I'm not sure. Because really you have two possibilities. It'll say what's the likelihood or probability. That's one way to answer the question. And the other way would be on average, how many? So there's two different possibilities of writing a conclusion, a probability or an average. So let's see what question it asks you here. It says, what is the average number of winners each week? So what would I do here for my conclusion? I would add and divide by the number of trials. I would add the number of winners. So in my case, I just did 2 trials. So I would say 8 plus 11 divided by 2. And what is that? 19 divided by 2 is 9.5. So we're going to show that calculation, and then we're going to write a sentence. On average, comma, there are 9.5 winners each week. That's it. And I've done all 5 steps of the process, and I have a thorough, full, complete answer. Okay? But again, question 10, I think that the reason that people got marked wrong on that question is because of the more than 400 as opposed to at least. Sure. Any questions about the process? Are we okay with how I would like for you to show me the trial outcomes and what I'm looking for there? Show me the results of what you did. You don't need to do the red part, but you might have to, just so you can keep track of when you got to 400. That's okay. Okay? Any other questions from the homework? Anyone? And if you're ever doing things online like this and you got one wrong, would you keep track of those so you can say, okay, I got question 10 wrong, I got question 4 wrong, or whatever it happens to be? Because it gives you that feedback right away. You knew if you got it right or wrong, right? So if you have that feedback, that way when you come to class next time, you can say, Miss Maverick, can we go over this problem? That's fine. Okay? Yes, sir. Yeah, we're going to actually, I'm going to pick, I have one specifically from the textbook that I want to do, so we will. But let's stick with the online first, okay, and then we will. Yes, sir. Number on the text online? Sure. Let's look at number 9. And we'll look at that one, and then we'll move on to the regular traditional textbook issues as well. Okay? So question number 9 said, you're about to take the road test for your driver's license. So let's look at, oh, hang on. Let's see if I can, nope, that's not the right one. Sorry, y'all. All right, so you're about to take the road test for your driver's license. My son takes his in March next year. I'm a little nervous. You'll need to be careful on the roads out there. You hear that 20% of candidates pass the test for the first time, but the percentage rises to 74% on subsequent retests. Complete parts A and B below. So we're going to write that information. So we're going to have attempt 1. The passage rate was 27%. And attempt 2, the passage rate increases to 74%. Okay? Was this one of the ones that you had to do in the traditional textbook as well? So is that the same problem that you wanted to go over? Okay. What's a similar type of question, though? Okay. So it says create a plan for simulation, and we'll go from here. Okay? So it kind of actually gives you some hints, doesn't it? It says assign digit pairs 0, 0, 2. Now, why did it use double zeros as opposed to single digits? Because the percentages don't end in a 0. Remember how we talked about that before? Because my percent, so I have to use double digits. So 0, 0 to what? Passing on the first trial. So that's going to be 0, 0 to 26. Isn't that 27% of the double-digit numbers that exist out there? Okay? So that first little box you would have typed in is a 26. Then it says what to 99 to represent a candidate failing on the first trial. So this one's going to be pass. And 27 to 99 is what we're going to assign as a failing grade. Okay? I'm going to write it in red, attempt 2 in red. Okay? So, let me just kind of see what it says here. Pairs 0, 0 represent passing on subsequent trials. So let's do our assignment for the subsequent trials. So 74% is going to be 0, 0 to 73. Would you agree with that? That 74% of the double-digit numbers is going to pass. And then we're going to say 74 to 99 means they're going to fail. Are we okay with that? And then it says we want to, in a random digit table, select blah, 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 allowing repeats. Why is that a word, allowing repeats, important? Sometimes it's not, and we'll talk about that later in a few minutes. But does it matter if the number 99 appears more than once? Because all you're doing is deciding whether it passes or fails, right? So it doesn't really matter if repeats come up. But again, we'll do an example in a few minutes where it does. Until a pass is reached, and record the number of pairs, how many times it took to get them to pass. That's what we're looking for, okay? And then repeat many times. So does it tell you how many trials that we need to do? No? Okay. So let me look at a random number table. Is there yeah, oh, question, Byron. Because you would be 0, 1 to 27, but because you're starting at 0, 0, that's the first digit. So it's always one less when you start at 0, 0. Cameron? I don't understand your question. Oh, there is a part B? Okay, we'll get to it. We'll look at it. Okay, any other questions before I get to the random number table part? No? Okay. So that is the part B is what you're saying? Is that what it's asking us to do? Let me look. So, is that what you're telling me? Okay, let me look here. So part B, I wonder if will it let you go on if you haven't done part B? All right, let me just kind of just do it real quick. So we said 0, 0 to 26. You guys don't need this to be recorded. Okay, so here's the results of the trials. We have the number of tests. There were 8 times, 8 people that passed on the first attempt. There were 8 people that passed on the second attempt. There were 3 people that passed on the third, 1 that passed on the fourth, and 0 that passed on the fifth. And so those are the results of the trials, okay? The question it's asking is, what's the average number of attempts that you needed to pass? And so you would take 8 plus 8 plus 3 plus, you wouldn't do that. You would take 8 ones, 8 twos, 3 threes, 1 4, and divide by the total. Do you know how to do that in your calculator? Let me just show you. So if you have your calculator, if you want to use your frequency and you want to use your average, you can do it one of 2 ways. So what I want you to do is get your calculator out and let me show you what I'm talking about. So everybody try this, okay? You're going to take the results of your trials and you're going to put the results. You either pass it on the first try, the second try, the third try, the fourth try, or the fifth try. Would you agree with that? So if you go to your stat edit, we're going to go ahead and use list 1 and list 2. So we're going to clear out the lists. And we're going to put in the results in list 1. So you can pass it on the first try, you can pass it on the second try, the third try, the fourth try, or the fifth try, because those are the results that were given to us. In the second list, we're going to put the frequency. How many people passed on the first try? 8. So over here, we're going to put 8. How many people passed on the second try? Another 8. Then we have 3, 1, and 0. You good so far? So what you're going to do is ask the calculator to calculate the average, right? So you're going to go to Stat, Calc, 1 var stats. But you've got to be careful. You have to be able to put in, now you remember I have the old operating system? The newer operating system is asking you for a frequency list. Where did I put the frequencies? List 2. So you need to say 1 var stats, list 1, list 2, because you put the frequencies in list 2. And you should get that the average is 1.85. Did you get that? Okay. That's how you do it on the calculator. If you wanted to do it just by hand, You could say there were 8 ones plus 8 twos plus 3 threes plus 1 4 plus 0 fives. Get your total and divide by the number of, because that's your sum, correct? And then you divide by how many of them there were, and it looks like there were 20. So divided by 20. You should get the same answer, 1 point, whatever it was. 1.57? Oh, 1.85? Okay. You'll get the same answer either way. Okay? Does that answer your question? Okay. Sorry I got so confused about what you were asking there. Okay, I'd like to go ahead, if we could then, and look at the textbook for the textbook problems. And I think it might have been, because the textbook problems and are very similar, and sometimes they're exactly the same as the ones from the book. So Byron, if you would, go ahead and lift your head up for me. I'm going to take a picture of the textbook problem, and we're going to look at it. It's number 19. It's about multiple choice. Actually, I'm just going to write it up here. Okay, so this is from the textbook homework, number 19. It says that you take a quiz that has 6 multiple choice questions on it. Okay? After you studied, you estimate that you would have about an 80% chance of getting any one individual question right. What are your chances of getting them all right? I'd like us to actually do all 5 steps with this problem. So even if you didn't do the textbook assignment, I want us to do it now, this one problem. What are your chances of getting them all right? Was it also online? So then you should have, I think they did overlap some, okay? So how do we do this problem? If I say I want you to do all 5 steps, what's the first step? State the problem. Byron, state the problem for us. What is it? Say it louder. Okay, so the problem is not the question it's asking, but what are we trying to simulate? We are simulating we'll simulate the percentage of people that get them all right. All 6 questions correct. Okay? What's a trial? A trial is what? Is a trial how many until I get 6 right? No. A trial is just 6 digits. And it's just 6 questions on a multiple choice, and you have to count, is it yes, right? It's either right or wrong. But a trial is just a string of 6 digits. That's it. It's not how long until, it's you were given these 6 questions. Does that make sense? It's a different kind of trial. It's important to understand the difference. A trial is a string of 6 digits. I'm sorry? You're all going to use a trial every time. But we sure did. Back here, a trial in this case was however many until I got $400. So there's 2 ways to set up a trial, how long until, or it's just whatever it is. Okay? So you have 2 options, and it's one or the 2. So this first problem was however many until I got 400. This one is we have 6 digits, how many of them did I get right? Okay? We want all 6 to be correct in order for it to count. Okay, what's step 2? What are our assumptions here? No, we're not using the percentage here. What are we doing in our assumptions phase? We assume that all the numbers that appear either in the random number table or our calculator have equally likely outcomes. Okay. And does it say specifically to use a random number generator, or does it say to use it doesn't say. So why don't we practice using the calculator on this one, just so we have, because we used the table on the last one. Is that okay with you guys? All right, so all of the numbers that appear in the rand_int function of the calculator have equally likely outcomes, or I'll say appear equally likely times. Okay? Step 3. What's step 3? Assign digits. Do I have percentages to assign? What percentage do I have? 80, and it ends in a 0, so how many digits am I looking at? Single digits, okay? So I'm going to assign 0 to 7. Why did I go to 7 again, Boris? Why 7? Why not 8? Because it's 80%. So why didn't I go all the way to 8? Because I start with a 0 rather than a 1. Okay? So 0 to 7 is 80% of the single digits. Okay? So that would be what? That they got the problem right or wrong? They got the problem right, so they got the problem correct. And then if they got an 8 or a 9 appears, what does that mean? They got the problem wrong or incorrect. Okay? Step 4 is going to be our outcomes, as our trials. We have to actually do, and it says in the book here to do 20 trials. We're going to do 10. Okay, just because we have, for our time's sake for our class, we're going to do 10 trials. So, how am I going to do 10 trials? We're going to make a little chart. Trial number. We're going to list what the outcomes are. And then what am I trying to find? What am I going to be? It's a yes or no. Either they got them all right or they didn't. Would you agree? So it's going to be a yes, they got them all right, or no, they didn't. We can see the number they got correct. I don't care. So it's either going to be all right, all correct, yes or no. So that's what we're really looking for, aren't we? Did they get them all right? Okay. So let's all use our calculators here. And let's see if we can't do that. So let me get my calculator. Okay. How do I type into my calculator what it is I'm wanting it to do? Who can remind me? Where do I go? Math, probability, good. So I'm going to hit the math key. I'm going to go over to probability and option 5. Very good. That's the random integer function. And again, I have the old operating system loaded on here. The newer one tells you, I think, upper, lower, and n. Is that correct? That means I need to do that for these calculators here have to be updated as well, those school calculators. That'll take some time. Anyway, rand_int. So what digits am I looking for? From 0 to, actually I want them all, 0 to 9. So 0 to 9, and then how many of them do I want? I want 6, right? So 0, 9, and 6. Your n is your 6. And it's going to give me a string of digits. So my outcome, my first outcome in trial 1 is 991547. And it's trial 1. What do you think? Yes or no? They get them all right? No. So we're going to say no. Trial 2. How do I go back to my calculator and hit trial 2? Just hit enter again and it'll come up. So this one is 039279, yes or no? Anytime an 8 or a 9 appears, it hasn't worked. Would you agree? Okay, so no. Trial 3. Stupid 9 appeared again. Good grief. That's also a no. Huh. What's going on here? Okay, this is just creepy. Why does that do that to me? Oh, I don't like this room. It's creepy. Okay. So trial 5 was 070439. Again, a no. Trial 6. I don't think we're going to get any. But you guys might have different outcomes than I do. Okay, so far they're all no's. Would you agree? Okay. Let's say that we got until trial 10 and we got it to be a yes. Okay. I had different outcomes in my block 2 class. It doesn't really, we're only doing 10 trials. Okay. So the more trials you do, the closer you're going to get to the real probability. And the real probability, by the way, is simply just 80% to the 6th power, which is 0.262. So about 26% of the time, you'll get all 6 questions right if you get an 80% chance of getting any one right. You would think it'd be higher, wouldn't you? If you can get any one question right 80% of the time, you only have a 26% chance of getting all 6 questions right. Interesting, right? Anyway, so in our particular example, in our simulation, with only 10 trials, let's say we went all the way to 10, and we finally got a yes. Okay? So that's our results. What's step 5? Byron, I really need your head up, dear. Poke him. Need your head up. If you want to come sit up front so you're more focused, if you want to stand up, you want to go get some water, I need you to pay attention. Okay? How do I write this as an answer in step 5, a conclusion? What is the conclusion? What question? I'll read the question again. It says, what are your chances of getting them all right? How'd you get 10%? Because 1 out of my 10 trials, we're not looking at an average anymore, right? So your conclusion will either be an average or it will be a probability. Okay? It's one of the two. So 1 out of 10, or 10% chance, according to our simulation, okay, of getting all 6 questions correct. Now we know, I just showed you that the real answer is about 26%, a little bit more than 26%, but we didn't do enough trials. Okay? So a couple things I want you to take from this, okay? One is making sure that you can look at your step 4, and it's important that you list the outcomes, okay? Show me how you used your table, how'd you use your calculator, that kind of thing. And then your conclusion will be one of 2 things, either a probability calculation or a average calculation, okay? All right, any questions, any additional questions on the homework? All right, I'd like to look at the Rice Krispie treat problem now. I'm going to pause. If you need to show me your textbook homework, can I have that from you also? I'm going to collect your Rice Krispie treat example as well, okay, because we did all of it in class except for number 6. So I just want to ask you about number 6. If you did not do all 5 steps to the simulation process for that last question, I'm going to give you a few minutes now to do it. Because I have a feeling that most of us did not do that. If you already did that, I'll take it and I'll give you extra credit for doing it ahead of time. All right, so there was a question, Catherine, on the Rice Krispie treat problem. What was it? Shh. It ran out. I just didn't create the table big enough. So what will happen is if that ever happens, you'll just need to kind of continue on underneath it until you get your next trial finished, okay? And that's okay. I mean, that's okay on this, but on the quiz, you know, I will be very clear about how many trials I want you to do, okay? But again, like if you needed to just continue on, that's okay too. Any other questions about the Rice Krispie treat problem? Okay then, let's go ahead, if you would, and you should have your practice quiz. And I've already gone ahead and posted an answer key to this online, so you can at home. I did it both as a JPEG and as a PDF, so you should be able to open it, and there's, I think, a couple of different ways to open it on there. I did that already or earlier today. But I'd like to look at question 3 and make sure we talk about it in class today because it's an important one to talk about. Ideally, I'd like to talk about questions 3 and 1, and then you can look at try 2 on your own. But let's start with 3 because 3 is a very different kind of problem than we've done to this point. We haven't done anything like it yet. So I'd like for you to read the question number 3 about Hilda and her coat checking abilities and see why is it different than anything we've done to this point. Hilda and the coat checking, the last question on the practice quiz. What's different about this? Let's do our 5 steps. And I know it doesn't say that on question 5, but or question 3, sorry. But can we just go ahead and in the margins, I mean, it's set up where it's asking you the same questions, but let's just do our 5 steps. And in our 5 steps, we will have answered all the questions. So what is step 1 in the Hilda practice quiz problem? What is it asking us to simulate? If she gave the coat to the right person, would you agree? Okay, so we're going to simulate whether or not Hilda gave back the correct coat, gave each person the correct coat. Okay? What is a trial going to consist of? This is where it's very different. What is a trial going to be here? How many people are there? I think it says 10. Let's say 10. Oh, you and 9, so the total of 10, right? 10 people. So if there's 10 of us, so a trial is going to be 10 numbers. Would you agree? 10 digits? So a trial is 10 digits. And do I have any percentages assigned or anything? So that's really the different part of it, isn't it? Well, I'm not going to assign a percentage per se, but I have to assign something. Say it again? Okay, so the order is going to matter. Okay, I want to make sure that Byron gets his coat, Samantha gets her coat, Matthew gets his coat. Okay, so we have to, in other words, order is going to matter. That we assign that 0 goes with 0, 1 goes with 1, 2 goes with 2, etc., etc. Okay, so we're going to write that. Order matters. Okay, step 2, what are we going to say here? What do we always say? That the assumption is that each number or each digit that appears in the random number table has an equally likely chance of occurring. For time's sake, I'm going to have you write that, and I just said it, okay? But you know what it's supposed to say. I'll write it down. I'm being lazy. I'm sorry. And we're going to use a calculator if that's okay, so. Okay, good enough. What's step 3? What am I assigning? What do I mean by assigned digits in this case? Okay, so because we're doing a simulation and we're not putting names to it, why don't we say that that Matthew is 0 and that you're 1 and Lexi's 2, and so we're just going to call them 0 through 9. Is that okay? So we're going to try to match each of the digits with their corresponding position. How does that sound? Do you understand what I'm saying when I say that? I'm going to look at a string of 10 numbers, 0 to 9, and I'm going to count how many of matches I get. So how do I say that here? It's not really a percentage that I'm assigning, but I'm going to do what? What am I going to say here? How would you explain that? In each string of 10 digits, count the number of matches. 0 to 0, 1 to 1, 2 to 2, etc. Is that clear if I say it that way? I don't know. I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we could add to clarify, or do you think that's clear enough? I'm asking. I don't know. You think it's clear? Okay. All right, so my trials for step 4 is going to look a little different than what we're used to seeing. Our trials, we're going to write down our outcome. And then what am I looking for? The number of matches. Would you agree? The number of coats that Hilda handed out correctly. Okay, that seems reasonable. So trial 1, let's look at our calculator. Or actually, do I give you a random number table?
Yes.
Oh, I do. Right above that. Let's use the random number table that's given to you on the practice quiz. I didn't see that. So let's use that. So real quick, I'm just going to write it down here. We have 3, 7, 5, 4. Well, I don't have to write it down there. Those are the outcomes, right? 3, 7, 5, 4, 2, 0, 4, 8, 0, 5. That's trial 1, the first 10 digits. And I'm going to count to see how many of them were matches. So I'm going to start with Anna. Ooh, that's really important, isn't it? So we have to say here that in number 2, or not number 2, number 3, that so we have to ignore repeats. Why is it important, Anna, that I ignore repeats here? Right, Anna, there's not 5 Annas in my group of 10. She's not going to get 5 coats. So once her coat's already been passed out, we're not going to pass it back out again. Does that make sense? So let's go through and make sure, do I have any repeats? I'm going to highlight the repeats. We're going to cross them out, I guess is a better way to say it. That's a repeat. Anything else repeat? The second 5 repeats. And the 4 repeats. Is that it? So I have to keep going in my random number table. I'm just looking at the one on my paper at this point, and we're going to write the next few digits down. I'm looking for a 1. What else am I looking for? A 9 and a 6. A 1, 9, and a 6. Would you agree? So I'm going to keep going here. I got my 6. I'm looking for the 1 and the 9. Got a 9. And then I have to keep going till I get a 1. Holy cow. I know. Do you mind if I just write 1 at the end? There's a whole bunch of them. So we're going to cross out. So I'm looking for there. Okay? So I'm just going to highlight as I go through and you'll see. So we're going to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Did any of them match? No. So therefore, we're going to say 0 matches. I'm counting. 0, 1, 2, 3. Some people find it easier to actually create a chart like this, where I have 0, 1. These are the outcomes that I'm expecting. Okay, and so I'm going to say this is trial number 1. And I'm going to make a column over here for the number of matches. And I'm trying to show you that they matched. So what were I'll kind of go back here. So what were the numbers? It was 3, 7, 5, 4, 2. So 3, 7, 5, 4, 2. And then it went 0, 8, 6, 9, 1. 0, 8, 6, 9, 1. And I'm looking to you guys. I'm looking to see if they matched up. Does that make sense if I write it that way? Sometimes organization is the hard part. Trial 2. 0 matches. Again, I'm looking at my random number table, and I'm going to ignore repeats, okay? And the next one, so I had to go all the way to 1, right? So now I'm starting with 0, 4, 0 I discount, but 2 counts. 0, 0 I ignore, but 8 counts. 2, 2 I don't count, but 9 I do. 1 I do. 6 I do. The other 6 I ignore. 5, 0 I ignore, 8 I ignore. 4, what am I looking for? What's left? 7, 3 and 7. 3 comes up first, and then so 7 would be last. So again, I'm looking for what matches. In this case, the 0 matched, the 2 matched, and the 6 matched. I had 3 matches alone, didn't I? Okay? That's a good thing. So I'm going to keep going from here. But you know what? I'm really disappointed in my second block. I didn't even mention the repeat thing, but you're exactly right, and that's really important. So good job on you, Anna. Gold star for the day. That's exactly right. And you're just going to do this 10 times. Yes, sir. You just ignore them. You ignore repeats. You're just going to continue until I get 10 distinct digits. Okay? And so that's why that ignore repeats is so important. Good job. Okay? So we'll do this a few more times. Now, for time's sake, I'm going to stop here, okay? But you understand the process, do you? Now, how do I answer question 5 in this case? What is step 5 saying in this problem? What are we asked to do? What is the likelihood? What does likelihood mean? Probability, okay? So, what's the likelihood? Now, of randomly giving someone the correct coat. Well, I think this is a weird question the way it's worded because we didn't count likelihoods, did we? Okay, we counted number of matches. So I think we should reword this question. So can you cross off the question B on number 3, and can I reword it for you? So James, go ahead and cross off 3B. We're going to reword it. So I would like you to say instead, what is the average number of coats that Hilda gives back correctly? And how would I do that with my 2 little trials I did here with those outcomes? What would I do? So 0 plus 3 divided by 2, which gives me 1.5. And what does 1.5 mean? Yeah, so I give about 1.5 coats back. For every 10 people, right, I give about 1.5 people correct. That's pretty terrible. Would you agree? Poor Hilda needs a new job, okay? So the answer key that I posted online is incorrect. I've got to go back and change that now. So, Anna, I love you. Thank you, okay, to the correct person. So I will go and do that in a few minutes, this afternoon, okay? But I will make sure to put that on there. Yes, Lovey? This is a practice quiz, right? So I do want you, we're done with this problem for us. I want to make sure you understand how to do it. You're okay for now, but you want to go back and look at the other ones, okay? Can we go ahead and flip over and look at question number 1, which is the 4-H project question with Billy. So I'm just going to talk you through it. I'm not going to actually do it, but I want to understand, do you know how to do this question? So read number 1 for you first, for yourself, and then we'll talk about it together. What are we asked to simulate? We're just going to talk through it in number 1. What's a trial? What are we doing? How many nests do I have to visit until I get 12 eggs? At least 12. It could be 13, okay, but at least 12 eggs. So that's going to be your trial. It's how many, it's however many nests until I get the 12th egg, okay? So it's not a set of 6 digits or a set of 10 digits. It's how many until I get what I need. How would I assign digits in this case? Katie? Yeah, we're using single digits because they all end in a 0. Would you agree? So I don't have to worry about double digits. And then you would assign 10% of those to be no nest eggs. You could say 0. You could pick any single digit. It doesn't matter. You could pick, if you like the number 4 and you wanted 4 to be the nest that had 0 eggs, you could still do that. Make it harder for me to grade, but it's possible. Okay? The random number table is there for you. So I want you to use that to show your trials. It does say that you only have to do 3. Did you see that? 3 trials. That one's not a long one. Okay, so this is a very similar one. Doesn't it sound a little bit kind of like the cereal box question that we did before? So it's similar, just a different context. If you look at question number 2, go ahead and read that one briefly just for a second, and we'll look at that one as well. All right, so your homework is going to be to finish the practice quiz. Sorry, question? Because you were sleeping when we did it. Math, PRB. All right. The simulation quiz is not going to take you but about 10 minutes to finish because we've already talked our way through it. So you're going to have something else to do. And I know it says the word investigative task on the front, but I promise you it's not as big as the one you did before, okay? It is not the scatterplot investigative task. This is really just one problem. So can you go ahead and look at the scatterplot investigative task I handed out for you, or to you, and let's talk about that one specifically. You'll notice it's only worth 20 points as opposed to 60. So it's going to take much, much less time. So I'll pause while you read that. Actually, this doesn't have to be recorded, so I'm going to stop the recording, but do your investigative task.